Over 1 million cinema lovers have already subscribed to Film Companion. What are you waiting for? Hit the bell icon and join our film family.
So it really is the time of that hybrid stardom, that hybrid celebrity where you're sort of jostling between social media, OTT, and the movies. And one of my favorite sayings that I got from Nawaz, in fact, was to say that race to ghode daudte hain, hum to kalakar hain.
Hi Tahir, so lovely to have you on Film Companion.
Hi Anupama, thank you for having me. I feel like we're stuck in this constant Zoom loop. Every time I meet you, it's over Zoom.
I know. We have to connect when the world is back in its place. But I want to begin, Tahir, by congratulating you on Yeh Kaali Kaali Ankhein. I really enjoyed the show. It's so cleverly written. There is, of course, there are the thrills and the suspense and the romance, and it's very, very funny. You are really good in it. And what was amazing to me, Tahir, was how in the middle of all this, the narrative also stops and has moments which are emotionally very authentic. You know, like that scene where you convince your father to steal. There was something very moving in that scene, or the scene where you think Shikha is dead and you sort of numbly accept marriage. And I was wondering, as an actor, how did you negotiate so many different tonalities? Because you've done a stellar job.
Thank you so much. I mean, and I speak for everyone who's been a part of this show, that feedback means a lot. You're right. It was, and the director was very clear, Siddharth Sen Gupta was very clear that it's a pulp show. It's written as a sort of tipping the hat to 90s Bollywood, which was over the top drama when it came to romance, when it came to the action, when it came to the emotional moments, just like you were saying. And the challenge for me really was that in a lot of points, the writing was just so intentionally over the top. And how do I bring that authenticity to it? And it was just very clearly defining what Vikrant's relationship was with each and every character. And I think that was the beauty. When I read these 8 episodes, I was like, wow, he's got normally in a series you'll have a character arc of the protagonist, but here there's an arc with every one of those relationships, and sort of delving into that. What is my relationship with the father? What is my conflict with the father? The same with Shikha, the same with Purva, and that was the beauty of it, is trying to etch out each one of those and live them as authentically as possible.
But did you have any trouble, Tahir, going between sort of this? Of course, the humor, you are playing it straight. We are in on the joke, but not your character. But what those moments tough, that you're trying very hard to sort of bring seriousness into some scenes which are just hilarious, like literally laugh out loud funny.
Yes, they were. And I think it was Rahul Desai at Film Companion who pointed that out really well, about saying Vikrant is pitch perfect for a character who knows nothing about being pitch perfect. And that for me was a great insight into what the character was, because it's a moment like, for example, when he's with his friend Golden, when he's so desperate to make his marriage not work that he's ready to convince the world that he's gay. And that is, I mean, I know when I'm reading that scene objectively as Tahir, that's hilarious. But to remain straight to what the character's objective in that scene is to do whatever he can to get out of that wedding. So yes, there were challenges because they had to constantly cut where I'm bursting out into laughter, but I know how serious that moment is for the protagonist's point of view. And that was what made it great writing, that even in the most dark circumstances, they managed to. There's a scene in the film where the father gets accidentally shot, but they managed to bring in dark humor even into that scene. And for me, that is what has kept the audience glued through the 8 episodes. The fact that they never let one emotion ride out for too long.
Yeah. Oh my God, that him getting shot in his ass was one of the funniest things I've seen. Now, of course, January seems to be the month of Tahir, right? You've got 83 in theaters. You've got Ranjishi Sahi on board. Looop Lapeta is coming on Netflix. Tell me, do you have a sense like I've arrived? Has life changed in any major way in the last few weeks?
I never get used to hearing it. I'm smiling even now, although this has been a month of promotions. but it's just incredible. You're right. It's been like Tahir Raj Bhasin festival, and I'm really basking in all of it. But what people watching this do not understand is that there is 2 years of shooting that went behind making this 1 month happen. And one of my favorite sayings is it's an overnight success that took 10 years in the making. And that's really where I feel like I'm at the moment. What I'm really fortunate, I'm really grateful for, is that all of these are so distinct. Like you can't watch one and say that it is like the other. And it's just that the stars have aligned in such a way that all of them come out to create this one bumper opening for 2022.
Now, one of the things that I find very inspiring and very intriguing about actors especially is the level of patience and conviction you need to just stay the course, right? Now, you were amazing in Mardani, which was in 2014.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, you've had successes. You've had Chichore, you've had all these other successes as well, but you're hitting critical mass now. What does it take? What does it take to have that patience and that kind of persistence over 8-9 years? And you came in 2010 to Mumbai. So there was like years before you landed Mardani.
Yes, that's right. There was about 3.5-4 years before I landed Mardani, and about 300 auditions that I was rejected from before Mardani happened. But I truly believe that it is those rejections that led to Mardani happening, that I valued that debut so much more because of the kind of phase that I'd gone through. And in Bombay, it's often labeled as the strugglers phase. I always prefer to look at it as the aspiring phase, because struggle has a connotation of negativity to it. It has the possibility that you might not make it. But for me, plan B always was to make plan A work. And when Mardani happened, in an industry that's show business, where a part of it is commerce driven, when something does well, the tendency is to repeat that success. And so I remember getting about 7 scripts the year Mardani did well, all of whom were shades of the same character. And having to make that very tough decision as someone who had waited for 3 years for that moment to refuse those parts, because I knew that if I was to remain creative and to remain stimulated, diversity was really important. And so off the back of Mardani came a film like Manto, where I had this amazing opportunity to work with Nawaz. And then there was Chichore, where I worked with Nitesh Tiwari, and then 83. And now the sort of culmination of it all, where that diversity is coming through. So to answer your question, yes, a lot of patience, mind-numbing conviction, and very often ignoring what people have to say in terms of, hey, why aren't you doing 5 films a year? And one of my favorite sayings that I got from Nawaz, in fact, was to say that race to ghode daudte hain, hum to kalakar hain. And I really believe in that, because if you remain consistent, I think today the audience is what decides who's a star and who's not.
But Tahir, tell me, in that moment, right? In that moment where it's been whatever, a year since your last release, you are getting another film, there's possibly a good paycheck attached to it. How do you say to yourself, no, I'm going to wait for a better opportunity? What does that take?
A little bit of confidence and a little bit of insanity, sort of mixed in the two. When you've got your agency, I'm with YRF. That's who I debuted with, and thankfully the same people who have guided Ayushmann and Ranveer's career helped me make those decisions. And it also comes from a personality of someone who gets bored very easily. And so I do not want to be in a situation where I accept a script, because what the audience doesn't realize is it's like a relationship. You then interact with that material, with those people, with that director for the next 6 or 8 months of your life. So for me, every one of those decisions is almost like accepting a relationship. Like, do I want to get into that? Like, you're falling in love. Do I want to half fall in love with this person for the next few months, or hold on possibly for something slightly better that might show up? And that's the sort of mindset that goes behind that kind of decision making, which months like these validate. But there are a lot of those moments when you feel, should it be quantity over quality sometimes? But I'm so happy that today the kind of response, and we're having this conversation, and that those kind of choices are being respected.
But kabhi dar nahi laga, Tahir? Kabhi, matlab, did you ever wonder, like, shit, am I ever going to get there? Am I ever going to make it?
डर बहुत लगता है, and I think I mean something that I really live by is that it's sort of the actors, the artist's job to chase imperfection. It is only after you go through a series of failures that you will hit on that one Yeh Kaali Kaali Ankhein, or you will hit on that one Mardani. But to live in a world where you're constantly trying to create that varnished image of, hey, I'm perfect every time, I think that's when your downfall starts. And this is not the kind of, I know I'm sounding very philosophical at this stage, but this is not the kind of wisdom that one comes to Bombay with. It's what you learn after month and years after years of seeing good decisions, bad decisions, and where it takes you.
Well, the show itself is also a hat tip to Shah Rukh, right? Of course, yes. From the title to so many things about the character. And like you said, like Shah Rukh, you are a Delhi boy. You also trained with Barry John. Tell me, is that kind of superstardom, do you think as an actor, it's still attainable? Or were those three guys, Shah Rukh, Amir, Salman, sort of the last of that sort of oversized superstardom?
They definitely are, and I think anyone today who says that, hey, I've come to Bombay to be the next Shah Rukh is not in touch with how the times have changed. Shah Rukh Khan, Amir Khan, and Salman Khan were icons of that era, and they are mega stars. But audiences change, and so do people's means of consuming entertainment. And I do feel humbled and honored at the fact that some people have even gone as far as making a comparison of the performance of Vikrant with Shah Rukh Khan from back at the time. But also, I'm very aware that isn't, Shah Rukh Khan for me is not a mega star. He's an emotion. Like, he is an institution onto himself. And to even be able to achieve a 10th, a 100th of what he has is a massive comparison. But I feel like today we're catering to an audience that has so much more of a palette to consume in terms of the content. And today's commodity really isn't money, it's time. And that's a whole different ball game that actors are playing with today. And I think really is the time of a hybrid celebrity, a hybrid star, where even as early as when Mardani came out, you could either be a film star or you could be a TV star. There was no in between that. Right. And now you have OTT, where I can have an 83, I can have a Loop Lapeta with Taapsee Pannu and be leading a Yeh Kaali Kaali Ankhein on Netflix. So it really is the time of that hybrid stardom, that hybrid celebrity, where you're sort of jostling between social media, OTT, and the movies.
Tell me though, having experienced both, especially with Mardani, which was very, very successful, is there a difference in the texture of success when it's in a theater and when it's on OTT?
I have never experienced what I have with OTT at the moment, where instantly on the same day you're getting messages from fans in Egypt and Japan and South America. That kind of reach to those many countries with subtitles has never happened before. Having said that, as I've mentioned many times, I've grown up on that single screen theater. There is nothing that replaces walking into that dark room, sitting with people, eating popcorn and enjoying it as a community experience. What one hopes for in the near future is that both of them can coexist as mediums of bringing entertainment to the audience, where there are stories that lend themselves to chapter-wise storytelling, like Yeh Kaali Kaali Ankhein, because even if we tried, there's no way that could have been a 2-hour film. There's just too much to tell. There are too many spin-offs that might come, hopefully, fingers crossed, in a season 2. And then there is
I'm rooting for Golden to have his spin-off.
I read that this morning in your tweet, and I'm sure no one will be happier than Golden himself. I think he's an amazing performer. And at the same time, there are stories that are best told in a tight 2-hour format, like Mardani or Chichore.
But tell me, you also trained with Barry John. And what I've understood in all these years of interviewing actors is that no two actors have exactly the same process, right? You can talk about method, you can talk about spontaneity, but everyone customizes some version as their own approach. So where do you lean as an actor? How do you go into characters and sort of build them?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. No two people have the same process. For me, also, no two scripts have the same process. So if I was prepping, for example, a Derek in Chichore, who's such an alpha college stud, I would focus more on the physicality, on getting that training, that body language, how he smokes his cigarette, how he addresses his hostel full of boys. And when I'm playing Vikrant, who's not an alpha, he's a little more submissive, I would try to understand what is it that his relationship with his father is, or his relationship with his family, that he so desperately wants to break out. But broadly speaking, I would divide it into the physical and the psychological, and which character requires more of which one. And it's almost like, as an actor, you never stop learning. It's not like, hey, when I was training with Barry John, that's when I was training to be an actor, and now I have achieved everything. For me, a simple thing like going on a solo holiday by yourself, or going on an awesome trek, or even the mind numbingness of being in lockdown by yourself in Bombay teaches you something about yourself or your environment that you then hope to distill into a character at some point.
Yeah. So Tahir, you said that you come from an Air Force family and you moved around a lot, and movies were the only sort of permanency in your permanent thing in your life. But how old were you when you understood that acting was what you wanted to do?
I would say because of the constant moving, there is a certain amount of taking your time to opening up to new people that automatically happens as a child. And that's something that upbringing really teaches you, is how to quickly blend in with people. And when you think about it now in retrospect, it's almost like you're constantly in performance mode. I realized when I got on stage somewhere in about class 10, so that would be when I'm 13 years old, that I was strangely, like people talk about stage fright or camera fright, and I was strangely most comfortable in that environment where you're literally opening yourself up, being your most vulnerable and saying, hey, judge me, this is what I can do. And from there, when I went on to Barry John, I was always an average student academically. And so when I went into extracurriculars and I was encouraged by good teachers, that was the first time of, hey, I can maybe do this and make a living out of it. And that's where the first germ came in.
And were your parents immediately supportive, or was it a bit of a sort of, kya karni hai, acting?
There was a certain extent of being puzzled. But my parents have always been encouraging, and their philosophy has always been, if you're going to do it, then you're going to give it your best. So I went to Melbourne to study film and media because that was sort of what the family believed. If you're going to do it, it's important to be educated in it. And those were real formative years. I think if I would have come straight from Delhi to Bombay, I would have possibly crumbled under the pressure of just handling your own home and everything that goes into surviving Bombay before you start going out there and having those meetings. And Melbourne gave me that theoretical grounding. And thereafter, there was the concern that any parent or any family would have. But gradually, when they started seeing work, and I do remember that final moment when I called them to Mardani's screening at the YRF theater here. And they just had tears in their eyes. And I was really worried about, are they not happy with the fact that I was playing this anti-hero? And later I was told it was just like literally tears of joy.
Yeah, because he was a pretty awful guy, the guy you played.
He was, yes, he was a bit of a bad boy. But from what I realized, people after that film hated the part, but ended up loving the performance of it. And that for me was a real sign of the sort of the maturity of today's audience.
So now that people have seen Yeh Kaali Kaali Ankhein and really appreciated your work, do you feel like you want to take further risks, or do you want to sort of bolster this position that you have?
It's funny you asked that. Tapsi and I were talking about that just the other day. And it sort of came up organically, how the both of us have made a career out of taking risks. Like you do the kind of parts that most people would really, double take at. And I really enjoy that process because I really feel that it is the perfect time to be doing those kind of performances. Vikrant is a romantic hero, but he's so flawed. He's your out of the box in terms of how emasculated he is, how he's not the most active protagonist, and gradually moves towards that in his arc. And I think now's the most amazing time to explore those kind of parts where you might be quote unquote the lead hero, but there'll always be a twist for the audience to wonder whether what was that? What genre do we put that in? What bracket do we put that in? And that's what I find incredibly exciting.
So, the last time I spoke to Ayushman, which was just after Chandigarh Kare Ashki, he said, in fact, that he wants to now do big blowout mainstream films. He wants to work with Rohit Shetty. So is that an aspiration you have?
Definitely. Like I said, if someone was to ask me, do you want critical acclaim or box office success? My answer would be, I want critically acclaimed box office success. So that's the hungry actor in me. So for sure, I mean, whether it's Rohit Shetty or working with Adi Chopra, these are people whose work I've really admired and would love to do, because ultimately I do believe that as an actor, as a performer, as a star, what you want is an audience. And if you were just doing it for, hey, I'm doing this for myself, then there wouldn't be much point in doing what we do. And what's lovely about Yeh Kaali Kaali Ankhein at the moment is the kind of messages I've got of people being forced to stay at home, either because they're quarantining or because there is not much to do outside at the moment. But in those moments, if you can entertain them and make them squirm and laugh and cry and be entertained, it's a fabulous perk of the profession.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to end with asking you, and I don't know what you can tell me, but I think the series ended on too much of a cliffhanger. So what can you tell us about season 2?
I do know that Netflix bases its decision on a season 2 based on the amount of enthusiasm that there is of the first season. And given that we've garnered all of this attention in the first 10 days, things are looking good. So we don't have a confirmation yet, but I do know that if there was to be one, then Vikrant is coming back to finish what he started off and couldn't successfully do.
Well, I cannot wait to see it. And it's so funny because he's in places so timid and he's so vulnerable. You're really rooting for him and you're almost hoping that he'll pick up the damn gun and finish this off.
I know, and it was really hard for me even as a performer, because the kind of parts I've played before this is someone who would pick up the gun and shoot the person in the first 10 minutes. And I kept telling Siddharth Sen Gupta, ye kab karega? Please, can I just have a bigger gun to do this? And he's like, no, series 15 minutes mein khatam ho jayegi if you shoot the girl in 15 minutes. So unfortunately, one has to wait for that moment to happen.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments was when he was Googling how to find a hitman and how to get onto the dark web. I love that it gets into the sort of the practicalities of it. Yaar, agar kisi ko marwana hai to karoge kaise?
I know. It was really strange to read it. Even when I was reading it, I remember asking Siddharth, are we sure we want to? It's like you're opening up the bonnet to what goes into becoming that person. And that for me was lovely because it stays true to its essence of this is an ordinary guy in extraordinary circumstances. And you're not going to see a victim in episode 1 and James Bond in episode 2. It's going to take him a while to become what he is destined to become.
Indeed. Well, I hope he becomes many more things. Tahir, thank you so much and good luck. Can't wait to see all the many things that you do next.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anupama. Hi, this is Tahir Raj Bhasin. If you like this video, subscribe to Film Companion.